Welcome to Commander Lab. I am Ken.
And I'm PJ.
And today we're taking a look at not only the Secret Lair Marvel heroes, but some cards we feel will have some high synergies with them. So, without further ado, let's get into Black Panther, and PJ, take it away.
All right, Black Panther. These are 5 cards we feel like that are going to be almost auto-includes in any Black Panther deck that you go and build. Couple things that quick to notice. There's a couple ways to do it. You can either go landfall, you can kind of go token route. Depending on how you build it, we included a couple different things here. So again, depending if you're going token build or landfall, this is a couple things that might work for you. First one being a Ashaya, Soul of the Wild. Kenny, want to read that for us? Go ahead.
So Ashaya, Soul of the Wild, power and toughness are each equal to the number of lands you control. Non-token creatures, this is an important part. Non-token creatures you control are forest lands in addition to their other types. So whenever his ability, Survey the Realm, whenever a Black Panther, another creature you control enters, put a +1/+1 counter on target land you control. Since that creature is now counted as a land, you'll be putting a +1/+1 counter on that creature because Ashaya says that creature is also a land, which is just really, really great synergy.
Yes, absolutely. I think there's just going to be a lot of triggers. Anything that enters that's not a token is going to trigger getting you a counter for anything that you want to put on off the Black Panther. So I think this is something that's going to be included in almost every Black Panther deck. And then in itself, it's just going to make itself bigger based on however many lands you have.
It's crazy. It's a good one. All right, so Vast Blessing. Take it away.
All right. If one or more tokens would be created, twice that many of those tokens are created instead. If one or more +1/+1 counters would be put on a creature, twice that many +1 counters are put on a creature instead. This is one of the cards that are actually one of the support cards that are included with Black Panther, and I think it's just a very good choice for something that should go in this deck, and I think they made a good choice by making it one of his support cards.
Yeah, and it's interesting, this is Primal Vigor essentially, but it's a world ability, so remember when you play this card, it's going to affect everyone's tokens and everyone's counters because it's not just your own, which is super important. This next one I actually thought of adding when we had this list, and it's Felidar Retreat. It's an enchantment. It says landfall. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, choose one, create a 2/2 white cat beast creature token, which obviously Black Panther wants to do, but he also wants to do something else, which is put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. Those creatures gain vigilance until end of turn. So you can decide, do you want to build up your army, or do you want to buff your army? And since you're having lands on here anyway, because of his Mind Vibranium, you want lands to put counters on. This is a great include, I think.
Yeah, and this is just going to give you that flexibility to choose whether you want to go tokens or counters. I think this is just something that is going to be very good, very strong. And depending on the game state that you're in, you get to choose kind of which way you want to go with it.
Absolutely. I'm going to take this one because I want you to do Tribute of the World. So Hardened Scales is obviously, if you're playing any kind of counters, you always, +1/+1 counters rather, you're always going to love Hardened Scales. If one or more +1/+1 counters will be placed on a creature you control, that many +1/+1 counters are placed on it instead. So you're just adding that little like cherry on top, which is a great include only for one forest. So it's awesome. All right, PJ, Tribute of the World Tree.
All right. So this is something I think is going to be very good in this deck. Especially if you're playing the token build of it. Whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control, draw a card if its power is 3 or greater. Otherwise, put 2 +1/+1 counters on it. So theoretically, if you're making a bunch of 1/1 tokens, those tokens are going to come in at 3/3s because they're going to have 2 +1/+1 counters on it. Then if you have something like the Hardened Scales out or whatever it is that gives you extra +1/+1 counters, they're just going to be even bigger than that. So I think this gives you that flexibility to either play big creatures, draw a bunch of cards, or play small creatures, make a bunch of counters.
Yeah, this is a really, really nice synergy. And again, 5 cards. Like, that will really juice Black Panther pretty well. All right, moving on to Captain America, which was a difficult one to do. So I'll do the creature, Arden. If you're going to do equipments, you're going to want Arden. At the beginning of combat on your turn, you may attach any number of auras and equipments you control to target permanent or player, obviously attaching it to the cap. So you get 2 triggers, so you can put 2 of these equipments on them. So he has, at the beginning of combat on your turn, attach it to 1 target equipment you control to Captain America. So for his catch ability and Arden's ability pre-combat, you're going to be juiced up, ready to throw those equipments at creatures or players.
Yeah, I think this is, again, you're going to be playing a bunch of equipment. I think having the ability on Captain is nice, but obviously only being limited to 1 is a little bit of a downside. But I think having Arden out lets you put every single thing that you're going to look to throw at somebody anyway your next turn they're just going to automatically get re-equipped to him, so you can do it all over again.
Exactly. All right. So this next one, Peter, take it away because I saw this all over the social feeds. This is a great one.
Yeah, this is the one that everybody's gonna put in. This is everybody's
Mm-hmm.
first thought when they play this. Excalibur Sword of Eden is 12 CMC, but you're probably never gonna play 12 for it because it
Mm-hmm.
costs X less to cast, where X is the total mana of value of a historic permanent you control, which are artifacts, legendaries, and sagas. Meaning you have any other equipment out, you're gonna reduce it by that much mana value to begin with. So you're never gonna pay 12 for this.
Mm-mm.
It gives a equip creature plus 10 plus 0 and has vigilance and only costs 2 to equip. So you move to combat with Captain America, he's already a 14-4. So you can then choose to continue to swing with him, or if you need to just instant speed unattach it and send it at somebody or multiple targets up to 3, that's your option.
And it's 12 damage because it doesn't care
Yep.
about the reduction. It's 12 damage to something's
Yep.
face, creature, or player. All right. Hammer of Nazan, or Planeswalker, or Battle, whatever you want. Hammer of Nazan is 4. Whenever a Hammer of Nazan or another equipment enters the battlefield under your control, you may attach that equipment to target creature you control. So again, it's not only attaching it for free, but it's making all your other equipment attach for free. Equipped creature gets +2/+0 and has indestructible. Equip 4. So if by chance Captain is taken out, you have to equip 4 to have Hammer on. But this is one of those cards where you want this on first, because if you keep casting these equipment spells, as soon as they drop, you can pay 0 for them, which is just awesome.
Yeah, this is just an auto equip basically for all your equipment, which is what you're doing in the deck anyway. I think having this out, playing 4 or 5 equipments afterwards, automatically attaching them to Cap just because they entered the battlefield because you have this out, it just saves all your mana to allow you to throw everything that you equip to him at somebody or something.
Yeah, this one's a good one. All right, go ahead and pronounce this one.
This is Mjolnir Stormhammer. So
Oh.
yeah, this is Thor's hammer really in the series. So whenever Mjolnir enters the battlefield, attach it to target legendary creature you can control. Again, free auto equip
Mm-hmm.
to Captain America, which is what we're looking for. Whenever equipped creature attacks, tap target creature defending player controls and put a stun counter on it. Then Mjolnir deals damage to each opponent equal to the number of tapped creatures that opponent controls. This is also nice because it kind of lets you control the board a little bit with whenever you go to combat with Captain America, but you don't even unequip this yet. You get to tap something down and put a stun counter on it. Means it doesn't even get to untap next turn for that player.
Yeah, I think this is an effect actually that I'm brainstorming Spider-Man will have, because it's kind of like he's webbing somebody. I don't know why,
Yep.
but I'm like convinced that's going to happen. But this is a great include. And it has
Yep.
good flavor because of Thor's hammer, obviously. All right,
Yep.
Nazgul Battle Mace. It's 5 CMC. Equipped creature has Menace, Death Touch, Annihilator 1, and whenever an opponent sacrifices a non-token permanent, put that card into the battlefield under your control unless that player pays 3 life. Equip 3. So this is a good one because it's giving Captain Death Touch, and we wanted to make sure that if you put this equipment on Captain America and you decide to use the throw ability, you detach a different equipment, because as soon as Captain deals damage, because that's how it reads, it says he deals damage equal to that equipment's mana value divided as you choose. So you can ping, let's say you have Excalibur attached and you have Nazgul attached. As soon as you unequip Excalibur and there's 12, say, tokens, you could do 1 point of damage to each because he has Death Touch and he's the one doing the damage too. We also like the whole that when that card is put onto the whenever an opponent sacrifices a non-token permanent, put that card onto the battlefield in your control unless that player pays 3. Also, it's almost like recruiting that Captain likes to do, and we feel like this can do a lot of great thing. And Menace is great, and Annihilator 1 is just punishing.
Yeah, I think this has kind of got a bunch going on. I think having the Death Touch, which you could either use this, you can use like a Basilisk Scholar, which is nice because anything you want to equip, you just kind of start pinging up to 3 targets. Either they're creatures, they're gonna die even if they take 1 damage. I think this is just something that's good to help control the board state, because realistically, this is almost like a pseudo Voltron commander where you're not going to play a lot of creatures, so you're not going to have a lot of defenses to block people that are going with the go wide strategy. So I think this helps control that board a little bit.
Yeah, it's really a sweet card. All right, so Iron Man is next. I'm gonna let you take over the creature one. Go for it.
Okay, so thinking of this one, it was a bunch of different ways that you can go with this. Obviously, you're going to play artifacts because that's what he does. He cheats artifacts out. So looking through some cards, I found this Auton Soldier, which is an artifact creature. So it's an artifact himself, which allows you to cheat it out off of his ability.
Mm-hmm.
And Auton Soldier says you may have Auton Soldier enter the battlefield as a copy of any creature on the battlefield, except that it is not legendary and is an artifact in addition to its other types and has Myriad,
Awesome.
which means you are making a copy of Iron Man, which then allows you to get his trigger twice. You make two treasures. You can sack two things to search, but then he also has Myriad, which means, unfortunately, the turn that you do play them,
Mm-hmm.
you're not going to get the attack triggers, but it's just going to get you two additional Iron Mans going at your other opponents as well.
Yeah.
So because he's not being declared as attacker, they come in attacking, so you don't get that attack trigger. But it's still nice that you get extras of him. So I thought you could probably go clones with Iron Man, just get rid of the legendary rule, obviously, and then you get to
Mhm.
continuously cheat multiple artifacts out each turn.
Yeah, it's gonna be you can have several of those attack triggers just stacking, but because of Iron Man's ability, you can't sacrifice those clones because it's non-creature artifact. But
Hmm.
you will be able to get many attack triggers and also many treasure tokens, which is just gonna be great.
Yep.
Artifacts are Clock of Omens for 4, tap 2 untapped artifacts you control, untap target artifact. Helm of the Host, here's that clone thing you were trying to go for.
Yeah, so I've actually never used Helm of the Host myself in any decks, but I think this is a really good fit because it lets you make a copy of Iron Man at the beginning of each combat. So you go to combat, you make a copy of Iron Man, you swing two Iron Mans, again, you get to make you have two triggers where you get to sacrifice two artifacts and then go search for something a little bit bigger.
Mm-hmm. And then we have Kark Clan Ironworks, which is sacrifice an artifact, act 2 to your mana pool, which is really nice. So you can start, obviously paying for these artifacts if you do have to cast them and you're not cheating them in. And go ahead.
Simulacrum Synthesizer. This is one of our newer cards.
Mm-hmm.
One of ETB's Scry 2, which is
Good.
something that just it's a Scry 2 trigger.
Yeah.
It lets you look and see what's coming up. But this is what's good. Whenever another artifact with mana value 3 or greater enters the battlefield under your control, create basically a construct 0/0 colorless, which gets +1/+1 for each artifact you control. Meaning that every time you're cheating out an artifact, big either 3 CMC or higher, you get to make a construct, which just gives you more beaters, which gives you
Mm-hmm.
more blockers, whatever it is that you're looking to do. I think this helps you build that army a little bit around Iron Man.
And also gives you the sack fodder if you want to
Yep.
go with the Clark Clan Ironworks. So this is pretty good. I think
Yep.
cloning is going to be super powerful. Speaking of
Yep.
powerful, Wolverine. We're gonna go to creatures. This is gonna
Yep.
be Ulvenwald Tracker. It's 1 green, and it says pay 1 generic and 1 green tap. Target creature control fights another target creature, which is perfect for Wolverine. You just pretty much sick it on another creature because Unrivaled Lethality says double all damage Wolverine would deal. So it's gonna mess up whatever it's going at, which I think is a really
Yep.
great include.
And Wolverine's second ability says it doesn't need to destroy the creature. It just
Mm-mm.
needs to deal damage to the creature to get a +1/+1 counter on him. So this is another thing that you could put your +1/+1 counter doublers or
Mhm.
additional primal vigors, all that stuff, just like we said in Black Panther. But I think a lot of fight spells going to be played in this.
I think so too. And this is the sorcery that we thought straight off the bat when we saw Wolverine. You thought of this one, so go ahead, take it away.
Yep, Chandra's Ignition. Target creature you control deals damage equal to its power to each other creature and each opponent. Meaning, you buff Wolverine up, he fights
Mhm.
a bunch of things along the way, gets big, play this. Now he's smacking everybody for double the damage of his power. So,
Yeah.
not just players, creatures as well. So it's good because he doesn't take that damage in return. He is just the one that is dealing that damage to everything on the board.
Yeah, and for the same mana value, we have another sorcery, Waltz of Rage, which essentially does the same thing. Target creature control deals damage equal to its power to each other creature. So this is essentially a board wipe. And what's also doing, it's also buffing Wolverine, because at the beginning of each end step, if it did damage, it gets a +1/+1 counter on him. So you get that. But it also gives you a little bit of card draw with exile. So till end of turn, whenever a creature you control dies, exile the top card of your library. You may play it until the end of your turn. And what's great is that you get extra cards.
Yep. So this is if you're killing your own creatures, obviously.
Mhm.
So if you're playing a bunch of small things that kind of help Wolverine and support whatever it may be, if he's dealing damage to all those creatures, if you have 3 or 4, you can then get to exile the top 3 or 4 cards, and you get to play them to your next turn,
Yeah,
the end of your next turn.
I like it a lot. All right, so Berserk. This is one that was obviously printed in the set. Take it away.
So Berserk is a one-drop instant, can only be cast before the combat damage step. So this is kind of like a combat damage trick where you swing Wolverine, somebody doesn't declare a blocker, then you get to cast it. Target creature gains trample and plus X+O until the end of turn, where X is its power. At the beginning of the next end step, destroy that creature if it attacked this turn. So many synergies here because
Mm-hmm.
you're already going to buff Wolverine up. You're going to give it plus X+O, so whatever it is, 5, 6 plus more, whatever it is, you're going to double that. And normally, this card has a downside where it says at the beginning of the next end step, destroy that creature if it attacked this turn. Wolverine has regenerate, so then
Mm-hmm.
you just keep 2 mana up, regenerate Wolverine, he does not get destroyed.
Yeah, so essentially you could play this instant for 3 total and you get to do a lot of damage. And speaking of a
Yep.
lot of damage, Tiber Battle Rage. Target creature gains double strike until end of turn. It's red and 1. It's an instant as well. And for Ferocious, that creature also gains trample until end of turn if you control a creature with power 4 or greater. The double strike is going to make Wolverine go burr. And I love the fact that it has trample too, because then you can get in for some extra commander damage, which I think people are going to notice about Wolverine, that he can definitely smack people for commander damage.
Yeah, just the double strike is nice. You get to you hit once, you double that power or just double that damage, and you strike again, double that damage. So
Mm-hmm.
it is for 2 mana. Another combat trick. I think it just one of the deck cards that should for sure be an auto include, and it's almost always going to give him trample because he's almost always going to have power 4 or greater.
He's going to be a big boy. All right, this last one, there was so many different ways to take it and so many gross ways to make it.
A lot of degeneracy here. A lot.
Oh, so bad. Storm Force of Nature. You already know what she does. So the first one that came to mind, Grape Shot. Grape Shot deals 1 damage to any target. And what's interesting about Storm is that this Grape Shot gets Storm. So if you cast 3 spells before casting Grape Shot, you get 4 copies. But you also get an additional 4 copies or whatever it is if Storm hits. So you get 2 different amounts of Storm. So you'll get like
Yep.
8 copies essentially, correct?
Yep, because Storm is a triggered ability. So just like Cascade, if you add Storm to a card and it has Storm, it now has Storm,
Mhm.
meaning it will then trigger twice. So I think you could play a bunch of like I said, there's a bunch of ways we're gonna go through it that you could have built this, but playing a bunch of Storm cards, giving them Storm, just having them double up is nice. Again, Grape Shot, you play a bunch of spells, you're gonna do a bunch of damage.
Yeah, I think like even early on, you could probably start like probably turn 7. You're probably start doing like 9 or so damage just with this one Grape Shot spell.
Yeah.
All right, so overpowering attack. A lot of people saw Storm. They saw extra combat. That's what we saw. Tell me why you put this in here.
This one's nice because this is from the Assassin's Creed set. It has free running, which lets you cast it for less than its full CMC
Mhm.
if you deal damage with an assassin or commander. Our goal here is to swing and connect with Storm, who is our commander. So then we're only looking to pay 3 to get an extra combat out of it.
Now, what else does it do?
So this says untap all creatures you control that attack this turn. If it's your main phase, there is an additional combat event followed by this. After this main phase, followed by an additional main phase. That's gonna copy however many times you play to spell this turn because it's gonna gain Storm after Storm deals combat damage.
Yeah, this is going to be a huge problem. So one of the things that we wanted to do was look for extra combats at instant speed. And we found a instant called Savage Beating. It's 2 red and 3. Cast a spell only during your turn and only during combat. So choose one. Creatures you control gain double strike until end of turn, or untap all creatures you control after this phase of additional combat phase. So playing this at instant speed will allow you to storm with that and then storm again with the next hit, correct?
Yes. Yep. So you do your damage while still in combat before moving to your second main phase. You play this, untap your creatures, and then you get an additional combat phase, which would then have Storm because Storm did combat damage.
It's brutal. Speaking of brutal, take this one away.
Tasha's Hideous Laughter. When I was looking for some cards, again, so many degenerate ways to build this. I think this is something that you're probably going to see a lot of for 3 mana, so it's not expensive in its own. Each opponent, so this is good because it's not target player. Each opponent exiles cards from the top of their library until that player has exiled cards with total mana value of 20 or more. Giving this card Storm means each opponent will then have to do this multiple times based on how many storm count, whatever your storm count is, meaning they might go through 12, 15 cards each time that this resolves.
It's so horrible. It's so horrible. And the last but not least, the card you should never ever put in any of your decks It's temporal manipulation. Take an extra turn after this one. I am not a fan of extra turns, but PJ, you understood that people do play this way for some reason.
Yeah, again, just it's giving cards that are so good by themselves the ability to be copied for just doing a little bit of combat damage by one creature is it's just so ridiculously nutty. And I think I think Storm can very well turn into a CEDH commander because
Mm-hmm.
of this. You deal damage, you've played I think we talked about in one of our previous videos, which they call it in CDH world is Cheerios, where you play a bunch of 0-drop artifacts, 0-drop spells, where
Mm-hmm.
you then could play 5 or 6 and then do your combat damage and then play this and get a storm count of 7. You're going to take 7 extra turns after this resolves. And this is one of the better extra turn spells because it says take an extra turn. It doesn't say target player, which means it can't be deflecting, swatted, or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's just gross. It's just gross. You're gonna take 7
It's
extra turns.
horrible.
Like it's people are just gonna want to scoop at that point because you're just basically playing Magic by yourself.
Exactly. I think out of all the heroes, Storm is going to be the most rule zero commander. Like people are going to ask if you're playing Storm, do you have extra turns in
Yes.
there? And if you
Yes.
say yes, they're probably not going to want to play with you. So just make sure you talk to your pod before you sit down and play it
Absolutely.
because no one wants to watch you take 6 extra turns. Because I'm saying in those extra turns, what if you bring that card back? Because it doesn't say exile. That's the issue with
Right.
this one. It doesn't say
Right.
exile
Yes.
after a
Most of the
resolve.
extra turn spells do say exile. And again, if you are playing one of these, you probably have most, if not all, the extra turn spells. So if you
Yeah.
take 7 extra turns, you're likely
Oh.
gonna draw into another one.
Yeah.
So like it's
Bad.
it's gross. It's gross.
It's like a Narset and Teamer, which is just awful. But those are our 5 cards for each new hero. You can find each one of these lists in our description, of course, down below. If you liked our picks, please let us know in the comments, and also make sure to subscribe because we're going to be posting videos every week. We're actually going to build each one of these heroes, correct?
Yep, absolutely. And if there's anything that you think we missed or something that
Mhm.
you think is an auto include, absolutely leave a comment down below and we'll try and include that in our builds too.
Absolutely. All right. So thank you so much for watching Commander Lab. I am Ken.
I'm PJ.
Keep playing and
We're tapping out.
see you later.